Hey YouTube, Poopslag here, and this is TurboFat, an open source game I'm making in Godot. You can find a link to the source code at the GitHub page below. And this month I'm adding career mode. This is just a prototype right now, but it's going to replace story mode as the main mode you play. So rather than walking around and talking to people in an RPG-like fashion, it's just going to give you a random set of levels, and you'll see how far you can progress, and then start over and try to beat your record. Anyway, here's what I've been doing. So whenever I work on a big new feature like this, if at all possible, I try to think of what's the smallest little increment of code that I can finish and merge in where people can see something's there, even if it's not finished. So this is the very first smallest increment of code I could think of. You have the old story mode is here on this question mark that's been shoved aside, but this new career mode is there. And all this does is keep track of how far the players traveled and how much money they've made in the current set of levels. And then if you click OK, it picks a totally random level. And this is just literally random. There's no logic. I eventually wanted it to be like, oh, the levels get harder as you go, but it just has a list of all the level IDs in the game, and it deletes the ones that are tutorials and just gives you a random non-tutorial level. And after you play 8 levels, it'll show you a little you win screen, and then you go back to the main menu. So very bare bones, but by working in this small little increment, if I don't finish my work for the month, I still have something to show, so I like that. So part of my vision for career mode was that you would start out playing easier levels, and as you progress through, you get harder and harder levels, sometimes with motifs, like when you're at distance 30 through 50, you might pass through a forest with a bunch of light-oriented levels where you can't see the pieces right, or the level 60 through 80 might be like a volcano area where there's lava ash rising from the bottom, you know, whatever. But as a small increment towards that vision, I developed this data structure where the levels are organized into groups, so it knows when you're at distance 0, here's one set of levels you can have, and as you get past distance 10, now you get a harder set of levels, and eventually I'll fill those in with real levels. Right now they're all just placeholders. So I wanted it where you travel further through career mode if you play better, so I tied that into the rank algorithm where at the start of a level you might only have 50 or 60 points, and it says, well, that's not a very high score, so that's a B- rank, and you only get to travel 1 step. But as you get a higher score, it might say, well, now you've broken the 200-point barrier. That's like an A- rank, so now you get to travel 2 steps. And as your score goes up, your rank goes up, and the number of steps you travel goes up. So that all works pretty simply for score-based levels where you want to get a high score. But there are also levels where you need to finish them as fast as possible, and your score is always the same. So that got a little messier. So the rank prediction algorithm, which puts a little number by Gong's head, doesn't really work great for levels where you're racing towards a target, because whether you're 20% towards the target or 80% towards the target, all it knows is like, oh, well, you haven't finished yet. So how does it know what your rank is going to be? I added a little logic to extrapolate based on your points per second, how fast it thinks you're going to finish the level at your current rate. And then I made it pessimistic for 2 reasons. The first being, it was weird when you first started a level and you cleared a few lines really fast for it to just immediately say, oh, you're going to get rank 25, and then to have it like plummet really quick. It was like, well, rank 25, 10, 5, 3. It was like, okay, chill out, algorithm. And then the second reason why I made it pessimistic is it's just fun for it to undershoot and to say, oh, you're going to get about rank 2, and then as you play through more level, to have that meter build up. So I like seeing things go up, and I don't like seeing things go down, so I made it pessimistic. So the next thing I added was this little level select where it doesn't just give you a random level, but it gives you a set of levels and you pick whichever one you want to play. These buttons were already in the level select for the other mode, so I just was able to borrow them and repurpose them, which was cool. I didn't need to reinvent the wheel. One little thing that's missing though is right now you just get free choice, which means you're always going to pick just the easiest level that you've done 1,000 times, and I feel it could get kind of repetitive. So I want to incentivize the player to pick an unfamiliar or difficult level sometimes. I have some ideas for how to do that, and that'll go in the next release. So I added these boss levels as a form of meta progression where every 10 or 20 levels will be this level that you just have to play. And it has success criteria where when you finish the level, if you didn't finish it fast enough or if you didn't score enough points, you actually don't move forward at all, and it sends you backwards. So you might play level 79, and then if you do badly, it sends you back to like level 76. But if you do finish it and you meet the criteria, it unlocks a checkpoint where next time you play, you can start from that level. So I put in 2 little forms of cheat protection into career mode, because I was worried about people making the game really unfun. Because one way they could make this game unfun is they might get in like 5 levels, and then on the 6th level, they play it and they die or they get a bad score, and they're like, well, I can do better. So they quit the game and play the 6th level again and again and again until they do perfectly. And then they're like, okay, that was good. And then they play the 7th level again and again and again. I didn't want people to do that. That's like so unfun. So to prevent that, right when you start a level, it overwrites your save with a version of your save data where you just bombed that level. And so if you quit and reload, it'll just say, well, you're not doing that level again. Here's your new level. So people can't retry over and over. The second thing I thought people might do is they might have like the perfect levels, like their favorite 4 levels, and they'll keep quitting and going back in until they get one of those 4 levels, because those are the only 4 levels they like. So I didn't want people to do that either. So to prevent it, you might think, oh yeah, just roll your random 3 levels and save them in memory, and then always give them that set after you've rolled it once, right? But the problem is at the start of a new game, they can pick their starting level. So it wouldn't just be rolling and storing like 3 random levels. I'd roll and store like a set of levels for every difficulty they had. It just seemed like overall just a big nuisance. So I came up with something a little bit more clever, which is I use a seeded shuffle algorithm. This is a Fisher-Yates implementation where you give it a number like 1603, and then if you give it a certain number, it'll always shuffle it in that certain order. So the number I give it is the amount of money they made in their previous career session plus the amount of money they've already made in this career session. So the result is every time you start a new game, it'll look like it's totally random, but it'll always be the same randomness based on your earnings. It does sort of open up the way to some weird speedrun strats, I guess, where people know like, oh, if I earn exactly $16,361, then I will get the God run next time. So who knows, maybe there's something like that. But overall, I like this a lot. I thought it was very elegant and really easy to implement. So I tweaked the rank algorithm in 3 ways to make it more accurate. The first is for levels like this that start you with pieces on the playfield. It knows you're getting a bit of a head start, so it has higher expectations for you. The second is for the fastest levels in the game, it was expecting you to drop something crazy like 200 pieces a minute, and I just think that's too hard for people right now. So I might eventually bump it up, but right now I've nudged it down to like 120 pieces a minute or so. So the requirements are a lot lower for the highest ranks. And then the last thing I did was there was a clever strategy where on certain levels, you could stack up a bunch of boxes on one side right when the clock ran out, and those would all get cleared and add to your combo, get you a lot of points. So for levels that let you do that, I've increased the scoring requirements. I also added a toggle in the settings menu for something called soft drop lock cancels. This is a feature that was already implemented in the game, where after dropping a piece, if you tap the down button, you can move it even though you've hard dropped it. This helps me play faster, but I think for people who are already used to the mainline Tetris games, like TGM3, there, if you hard drop and then soft drop, like soft dropping is a way of locking the piece in. So it was having the exact opposite effect from what they thought it would do. So now it's just a toggle and you can turn it off. So that's what we got for November. We got this beginnings of career mode, where rather than in story mode, where you would have to walk around and look for people to talk to, and this guy has that certain bubble over their head so I can talk to them, and then popping open this cell phone menu with like 50 levels that you've already beaten, right? So rather than all that, now you just pop up in career mode and it's like, here's 3 levels and I haven't, oh, this one I got a bad grade on, let me try that one. And then you beat it and you get a new set, right? So overall, I like this mode a lot more gameplay-wise, but aesthetically, it's still just a mess. It's just this big gray menu with buttons, right? So I want to bring back some of the charm of story mode, as far as having, you know, instead of just a menu with buttons, maybe like a path that your character walks down and they pass by signposts with like a 13 and a 14 and a 15, and there are monsters there that you can talk to. And just things like that. Just a little bit of the charm that story mode had, because I did think it was charming, even if it was sort of clumsy to play. So that's what I'm looking to do in December, and I guess I will see you guys next month. Hope you'll join me, and see you next time.